Away from the multiple riots and bursts of just police shootings of young black males, we knew as a union that we have a role in addressing these issues. That's why we put together the Racial Equity Task Force.
Use the contract to make proposals on racial justice, including staff diversity.
For the unions to take a stance on this is for us to continue in the history of educators undermining the inequitable ways that our country deals with both.
This is heart-wrenching to me because my school's motto is family, memories, passion. So on the outside of my group, we are encouraged to display our families. And my family was different because I'm gay. So Jeremy, there are those pictures. My students want to know who that is. This bill makes me question if I can answer their questions. I felt like I needed to speak out against the bill. I can't sit back and let this kind of stuff happen without there being a little fire lit. So then I began to work with AFT and Randy Weingarten. She gave me a call and she was nothing but, we got your back and we're gonna help you through this.
I'm really excited as a member of the very new Asian American and Pacific Islander Task Force.
I'm a Japanese American, third generation. And what it means to me to be on the Asian American Pacific Task Force is that we have a representation, a place where we are made visible and that our issues are lifted up, especially in this day and age with the Asian hate sentiments that's coming across this country, that our Asian American Pacific Islander union members in AFT are standing up and voicing our issues and raising awareness on AFT and the communities at large.
The many wars that Donald Trump is engaged in, the war on knowledge, the war on higher education, the war on America's universities and colleges, and a war where instead of actually supporting colleges and universities to do the work that they should be doing in America as the agents of innovation, as the engines of our economy, instead of doing that, what Donald Trump is doing is trying to have them bow to his demands on what they can teach and who they can admit or who they can hire.
The state of Texas has been one of the leading mass heaps of hellscape. Trying to make diversity, equity, and inclusion bad things. When fundamentally, that should be the bedrock of where we start with when we think about equity. Diversity is a gift. Equity is something we should always strive for. And inclusion is something we should be proud of. So I'm really proud of the work that AFT has been doing. And we also know that it's our higher ed community that has been hit hardest in Texas this last session with it. So I'm proud to bring up my friend, someone who leads a lot of task force on the national level for a lot of the work that you just saw. And someone who happens to be the leader of a state federation primarily focused or with a primary number of higher ed members in it. Please give it up for our friend, President of the California Federation of Teachers, Jeff Harris.
Say is glad to bring this speech advice. Honored to be here. My name is Jeff Freitas, president of CFT. Wear a lot of hats. As I've introduced myself to many of you on this ZEF California, and honored to be so. This isn't the first time I've been to Dallas, it's the first time I've been to Texas. I've actually vacationed here, partake to many things like rodeos, as I should say. And I like, whenever I meet people, this has nothing to do with being invited here, but whenever I meet people, I travel to the US, they say, where are you from? And I actually tell them I'm from the Texas part of California. So I'm honored to be speaking in Texas. Very rural, very agricultural, very Spanish, very moderate in politics. Actually, the town I grew up in was Los Baños. We actually say Las Vegas. Obviously, for many reasons, but I'm very honored to be here because of that. And I know there are parts of Texas, part of California in Texas. I'll get to that. But there are differences, as we all know. You have Governor Abbott. I'm sorry. He's attacking immigrants. He's attacking LGBTQ plus communities. He's attacking women and women's rights. You have your legislators who are attacking schools, taking over Houston, preventing collective bargaining. Sorry for all that. I know we have Gavin Newsom, and some of you love him. That's great. As with any politician, there's always fights. But we got $15 minimum wage in California. That's increased over the years. We have ethnic studies in California as an official requirement. We have banned forced outing of students by educators in our schools, and we use the strike often for our collective bargaining agreements and other issues. So I come here with a message of solidarity in our work. I remember when AFT had their convention in Houston, and after Abbott had been doing all of these, I'm just gonna call it, had been doing all these things, and we had members saying, maybe we should boycott. I said, oh no. We have members there. We must stand with them, fight with them, and be with them in their fight. What's the same is what I focus on. Our vision in California is the same as your vision in Texas. You are united for education and you're united for justice. And those go hand in hand. And when reporters ask me, aren't you a teachers union? Why do you focus on these things? I go, first of all, stop there. We're more than teachers. We represent everybody in education. So remove that title. But we're first and foremost a union. We happen to represent people that work in the education field. In AFT, that's not true. It's beyond educators, it's nurses, it's public employees, it's higher ed. But I remind them that we are a union and we focus on what that means. And so there are 4 pillars that we have in our vision of United for Education, United for Justice. And yes, we in California, just like you, we're all in the education world. So education justice is so important. We need to make sure we are funding our schools properly. We need more funding, not less funding. We need to secure our public schools, not have vouchers and charter schools, and we are fighting those as well. Because they are trying to break us up with the vouchers. They are trying, it's just a tax break. They don't want, it's so funny, they don't want public loan student forgiveness, but they want to give rich people vouchers. And we know why. But there's also the charter schools when they're trying to impose and break up our unions and break away from publicly elected school boards. And we know we're fighting against that because that is so important. We're both fighting against that. We're fighting for it, and we're trying to make sure that our students, the programs we have for our students, and that we're educating them with true history. We're allowing them to be themselves, and that's important about the education justice. We also fight for worker justice. That's our second pillar, because we have to have not livable wages, but enjoyable wages. We have so focused on just being livable. We need to be focused on being enjoyable. And so my husband, his father was a teacher, his mother was a nurse. They actually had a second home. Exactly. We can barely have a first home if not great nowadays. Now, it wasn't something exorbitant. It was just a little two-bedroom house. But it was something they could enjoy. And that's important. That's what we need to continue to fight for. And we need to have health care. We need to make sure that we're healthy enough to work. That they don't get that a lot of times. And I'm using the general thing. So in California, you had HB2. Congratulations on that. In Texas, you had HB2. You off of that. And you have that in California, we have AB 477. Again, that's where we don't agree with the government. But it would increase the funding of education 50% in 10 years for the purpose of increasing all education salaries 10 years by 50%. That's a 5% per year raise. Not something we often get. And again, same thing, Texas, California. Our third pillar is community justice. We just saw a video focused on what it means. Because when you earn that dollar, you need to be able to spend that dollar where you want and how you want. We need to fight back against the injustice that prevents us to be who we are, where we are, wherever we want, and how we want to spend that. And that's talking about it not being put on the back of the bus. That's talking about having health care that we can use our way that's right, medically proven, and not preventative the way that we need our health care. That is community justice. That's why we support our students, as we support our student alliance. That's why AFT has all of these task forces. I am the chair of the LGBTQ plus task force. I'm also the appointed chair of the Veterans Task Force, because we know we need to represent veterans. And I'll come back to that. We have the Latino Issues Task Force. We have the African American Task Force. I worked on that task force 8 years ago on their report. And the work, the expansion, we also have the rural task force. We have to talk to our members and protect their rights. It is about this community justice that is for our members, our students, our communities, and our families. And that is the third pillar. And that is to remind people of what you want here in terms of immigration many years ago. Bible versus Job. The Supreme Court recognized that the education system must pay for undocumented students. You want knowledge. No, we're fighting in LA right now. But there was a recognition by the Supreme Court that there were undocumented students and that we were to provide the services for them. How dare the president put the military into our communities to push back against our freedom of speech, to protect what the Supreme Court recognized many years ago that we had. And the fourth one, which is why I'm here, labor justice. It's different than public justice. It's about solidarity. You don't elect me, you're not my members, but I'm here because we gain these rights united. Regardless of whether we're in the same house at AFT or in a different house at CIU, UAW, name any other union out there, we have to fight with each other because that's how we're going to move forward. We're actually fighting against the common enemy of the oligarchs and the billionaires, and that's why solidarity, labor justice is so important. So Whether here in Texas or in California, we are no different. We are fighting the same issues. We have the same beliefs. We know what's right and how we move forward. And that is so important, whether it is the Texas part of California or I'll stick the California part of Texas. It is these four pillars that we continue to focus on: education justice, worker justice, community justice, and labor justice. And that's why I'm so proud to be with you here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate those words. I appreciate the greetings from the great state of California. We're not afraid to say it here. We love California just like we love Texas and every one of our 50 states. Can we bring up Amanda Garcia? Amanda, can you introduce the next panel, please? Thank
Okay, it's working now. Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Garcia. I'm one of the higher education organizers, and I'm really excited to introduce this panel of really amazing advocates. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being here and coming in from California. He's been traveling like the entire world for the past 2 weeks, so I really appreciate him being here and dealing with all the jet lag. So just got back from Poland. So. And Dr. Brian Evans is the president of the Texas American Association of University Professors, which affiliated with AFT officially at the state level March of 2024. We're actually the first state to affiliate. So AFT and AFT National affiliated back in 2022, but we're actually the first state to officially affiliate and start working together. So it's been really, really great. And then we have Travis, who is the lead higher education organizer, and he has organized his entire life. He met us on campus in his mom's kitchen because his entire family, he goes from the line of labor organizers, so he's great. And he's organized every industry imaginable, so I'm really happy to have him in education. All right. Okay, so just to kind of set the stage, Dr. Evans, can you tell us what the political landscape or the general landscape is of higher ed in Texas right now?
Sure. Are we okay? Good. Yeah. So first I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Zach, everybody at Texas AFT for chartering our union back in March of 2024. We're in this together. We see the same disrespect, defunding of higher ed, see in public K through 12. As teachers in higher ed, we want our students to adapt and thrive in college. We want to help our students develop critical thinking, knowledge, skills, and professional networks for responsible citizenship and productive careers. In public higher ed, we're facing the same attacks. What starts in higher ed sometimes is a legislative attack. It's then repackaged for K through 12 and vice versa. And sometimes they just come at us at the same time for the same reason. As teachers in higher ed, our working conditions are student learning conditions. It's the same. Each of our 74 community colleges, 37 universities, and 15 health institutions, we often forget, like MD Anderson, where Zach was getting his care and treatment, is part of the University of Texas system. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So we have 15 of those in Texas. Each of these institutions has a unique mission for the 1.4 million students that are enrolled in the 500,000 dual credit, dual enrollment students in high school. Although that may change now down to 7th grade. I don't know if that state law changed last session. Texas has more top-tier research universities and health institutions than any other state because faculty and staff and students have the freedom to teach, question, and discover. Faculty at our community colleges are bringing their expertise and leading workforce development for skilled labor and other careers, and also transfer paths are incredibly important at our community colleges. Health institutions provide health care probably for about half of us. So they provide health care in all 254 counties in Texas, including half of all the outpatient visits in the state, 1 out of 7 hospital visits, all done through university healthcare institutions. So being affiliated with Texas AFT has amplified our advocacy on campuses and at the Texas legislature. We are a statewide organization, so our core organizing is to launch and strengthen campus chapters. We've been adding 1 campus chapter a month since we chartered back 16 months ago or so. Now at 36 campus chapters. That's what we're doing. This is where Alvaro and Linda have made all the difference to get those organizing on the ground.
I was gonna say, Dr. Evans, pretty humble person, so Dr. Evans, so.
Am I coming? Okay. I'm back. It's ping pong. All right. In the legislative session, it really has changed. They went from kind of going after us in a bit of pieces in 2021 legislative session to a full out assault on teaching, their censorship. There was removing economic security. There was also the removal of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and practices. All this, there were other, those are the 3 biggest ones, but and they came at us even with more blast, almost bills, twice as many bills in the last session than the previous one. So it was really the organizing that really helped us have a daily ground game. Kelsey claims part of that. Amanda, our on support. So thank you. So things just got worse in the last 4 years, like really, really bad.
Well, that's, yeah, kind of a theme that we're seeing, and what's unfortunate, I think, which is a crazy thing to say, but I never thought I'd be saying this. I was telling John this the other day, that California and Texas are actually super similar right now with the state of higher education, which I thought I would be saying. You know, California has always been a leader. But Jeff, do you mind telling us the landscape of higher ed in California and how you built community college and university organizing in your state?
Sure. Yeah, it's very similar. It's our UC system, that's our University of California system. We just took your University of Texas chancellor to be our chancellor, so James Bilkin. So a little bit of Texas came to California. So in CFT, we represent community college faculty. We probably represent 65% of the community college faculty, both full-time and part-time. That's how there's a difference in code and rights in the state of California. We're working on that. About 30,000 members of our community college faculty. We also represent AFT calls them PSRPs. We call them classified. I'm not sure what you call them here. Terminology. Classified. Okay. Every place is called different. We don't represent, we have a 3-tier public education system, community college, state university system, and the UC system. We represent the lecturers and librarians in the UC system. We have, since we've got collective bargaining, that's one difference between Texas and the state of California. We have collective bargaining. We got collective bargaining for K-14, our community colleges included. Back in 1976, it went into effect January 77. That has been a part of our effort to organize in the community college. And a few years after that, we got what we call HERA, Higher Education Employment Relations Act, which allowed for our university system to get collective bargaining. So that's when we got. We missed the state university system to 30,000 membership system by 90 votes back in the late 80s. So we almost had all 3 systems in CFT. We're still working on that. Friendly working on that. But so that's how the landscape is in terms of who we represent. And our organizing has been, it's a conversation about solidarity. We can only win these major issues if we come together and have a statewide voice on that. And that's why I say that the CSU system is something that we're talking about. They are part of the AAP, so there is a relationship there. And as I said, we do work with other unions. But we have seen this this movement, and I know there's a question later about this, and we'll hold off to talk about how we use collective bargaining to bring people together. But organizing is organizing. It's constant conversations with members. It's creating an environment. There has to be some type of enemy or achievement in building that discussion with the members. It's nothing, you can't remove the foot game, but it's the ground game. It is that conversation, listening to. It's not just hearing, it's actually listening to the members. How do you?
Thank you, Jeff. And this is for both Dr. Evans and Jeff. Dr. Evans, you mentioned in your last answer that things have changed drastically over the last 4 years. And Texas AUP, the Conference of the American Association of University Professors, convened in 2021 and expanded into legislative advocacy in 2023. So do both of you mind telling us how you had to adapt for organizing approaches as the higher ed climate has changed over the past couple of years?
Sure, I'll start by also recognizing Jim and Teresa Klein over here, if you'll raise your hands. So we were doing some legislative advocacy. They were part of an effort that actually got Pell Grants for low-income, I was a Pell Grant kid, for low-income students. To get that extended to include summer classes they've been taking. That's what the advocacy that they had done prior to our chartering. So we had pieces where we did things, we'd visit the legislature maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and that was great. What changed for us, because the texts are so strong and pervasive and affecting all of our students, teachers, and our staff as well. Everyone's being affected. We're losing economic security. We're losing pay. We're losing also fund per student loans. So so for us, it was advocacy, it was training, it was email campaigns, it was on the ground at the legislature, it was call, it was text, it was all those things that you have all the tools to do, you have all the reach at the legislature. We were able to build on all the things we had done before. We found that the coalition that was against vouchers was a great coalition to also be also for public higher education. That was our starting point in 2023. We got some help from staff in 2023 before we chartered some things. So that a lot of things. And we carried that forward in 2025 with mainly Amanda leading the charge here. So Amanda gave us the daily ground game along with Kelsey and Patty and others to really go after the bad goals. So whatever they don't do in the last session, they come back and do this session. So we have to keep our guard up. It's the same thing in K-12. So we've already now faced censorship and classes. We face lack of economic security, due process. Tenure is still there but undermined. We've lost diversity and inclusion, workers' practice. So whatever they can get. So what will come next session? Probably more censorship, probably more reductions on security, job security, probably another attempt to get rid of tenure. So all this will come next. It's going to be this same thing. But it was really the organizing campus chapters with Texas AFT doing legislative advocacy training, testifier training, really helped us have a session.
The struggles that we're seeing in California, as you know, a lot of federal is coming down trying to silence it. We're lucky in California that we don't have a government that's feeding into that and able to fight back, but it is the funding. So we represent higher education private sector as well as public sector. And in our university system, the governor, because of particular loss of funding for the government that he's predicting, cut the higher education system. But our members came together. And it is actually an opportunity for us to have those conversations, to be able to fight together against that. Immediately after that fight, we have a 3-step process for a budget. the governor reduced his cut from 8% to 3%. Now it's a 3% cut, but it was a 5% win. And we celebrated that, but continued, and with the legislature, they're actually zero now and flat. So it's another 3% win. But what we're fighting back against the administration, because they're trying to preemptively lay off our lecturers. As you know, lecturers are be let go at will, they don't have to send faculties. So this is the fight that we have. So we may be losing members, but it is also at the same time, it's the limit we're trying to eliminate to organize. Our members are talking, they're building and communicating, and that's the important part. They're creating their committees, whether it's an action committee or organizing committee. That's the opportunity we have here to run with them. It's not building the power for CFT, to build power for these locals, for these members and their rights. And so that's the opportunity we're taking in terms of this organizing. We're also organizing for the first contract, California College of the Arts, and they're asking the state funding. We're finding that there's a connection when they're it's a private college in the Bay Area. They're the only ones that provide teacher programs for arts education. So if you want to be an arts teacher, they're the only ones that really provide a full program to get a certificate or a credential in arts education. So we're educating our legislators that, yeah, you need to fund them too, in the private sector. You need to put some funds here, and they see the importance of being a part of a larger union organization, and we're in this fight together.
Thank you. And this next question is for Alvaro. Like I said, you've organized literally almost every industry imaginable, from hospitality to agriculture and education. So is there a bottom line issue that you've seen across labor, and how do those landscapes compare to what we're seeing in higher ed right now?
That's a good question. So, well, first of all, I didn't organize agriculture. I wish I did. I get a chance, but maybe one day, right? Out of my issue. Well, I think across every sector, public, private, healthcare, service industry, education, every person, in the issue of feeling that you don't have a voice is an issue or that brings, that unites everybody, right? So it doesn't matter custodian, a buildings, or a nurse, or an educator, right? When it comes down to feeling when you're at work and you don't feel like you have a voice, you don't matter, and you're just there for the next 8 hours and you feel hopeless, that is the bottom issue that everybody unites, right? Everybody sees to want to change, right? And this is the thing that we as organizers look, we look at, we talk to those workers, trying to figure out what is the things that they care about, right? And so I think that's probably one of the biggest issues that they have. But speaking about, higher ed, and you heard all the issues that are going on in higher ed, all the things that are being taken away, like academic freedom and so on. I don't think we are in an unprecedented time in history in higher ed, and we need to really figure out, and like Randy said, how to fight, but get people motivated and make that connection, right? And so, like here in Texas, we have a great opportunity to really do some good work. We have great locals, great leaders here, and some of our chapters, like Dr. said, we have over 35 chapters across the state of Texas, and this is our chance to have our great leaders in higher ed. And we got four more there, Teresa Klein and James Klein, David Albert. These are our folks who are out there every day talking. I remember Dr. Evans for here today. Oh, Amanda, Al, they did all the great work on the field. I gotta tell you, I've worked with a lot of great leaders over the time. Dr. Evans, probably one of the hardest working leaders ever. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. And I think I get the most pleasure being man that we always talk about when you see Dr. who's happy about something that we accomplished. It means more to him happy that he knows that we've accomplished something, right? So yeah, I would say I like respect and like voice is about an issue for everybody, you know, and so it rings true. No, I'll say.
Thank you. And that kind of brings me into my next question about SB 37 and how it attacked faculty senates and curriculum and really undermined faculty voices. What were some issues that Texas AUP AFT were advocating either for or against in the legislature? And how are we continuing to organize and build powers now that some of these bills have passed?
Yeah, so this was an omnibus bill. It's like 4 bills put into one. And it picked up where the last legislative session left off. So it was another bill to muzzle faculty voice and to prevent students from learning certain things on race. So we got the working though, made it really work hard. It's the last 5 days of before the bill was passed, it was in reconciliation committee, is to remove that wording. So we did get it removed. It was a censorship clause left the previous legislative session brought back. And that was to restrict our ability to teach about race, gender, nationality, political, social, and religious values. So we got that struck down. So that bill no longer specifically says any specific topic is off limits, but it puts in place political appointees from the university sides, from the governor, from the community college sides, from your local governing board. They will now micromanage all the content in the classes. The professors, teachers, teaching assistants, other instructors still have the right to bring up other topics in addition to the ones that they're supposed to cover. There's still that freedom. It's very important we still have that amount of freedom. But the topics that we have to cover are now going to be specified by political appointees. Will no longer be down. The departments and colleges, of course, will still propose things, but those can be struck down and managed all the way up. There'll be 2 sets of committees, one for every institution and one for every group of institutions. About 200 new committees, complete that. Micromanaging curriculum appointed by political appointees, not teachers, not subject experts, people that the governor wants or the board of government. It's those politically connected folks that will be appointed and running the show. So it's a big shock for us. We did fight, we used fun hard, also Bergdorf and David Albert at AFT Locals at Lone Star and Austin Community College also were part of this. So we're all part of the big higher ed ecosystem at Texas AFT. We all fought this thing, and right now we're working with universities, community colleges, health institutions to try to soften the blow of this bill. So the first thing to fall is the faculty senates, the elected boards of faculty to oversee curriculum, to advise the president, to come up with other policies, student educational policy, and so forth. So we're all working with our faculty senates so that they will dissolve on September 1. All the faculty senates in the state dissolve on September 1. All 100, whatever, 125 public institutions, all dissolve on September 1. So we're trying to get the wording place so they get dissolved, but then they get approved on the same day. We don't want continuity when we get it. Because once you dissolve the faculty voice, the faculty voice, it's the university-wide, community college-wide voice. Once that goes away, it's going to be really hard to bring it back. So that's the first thing. All the rest of the bill takes effect in January 1st, which we all have to worry about as well.
Yeah, and that includes the faculty senate and Angie Anderson, like you were talking about. It includes all the health institutions, right?
So all your healthcare right now is being the faculty senates, Angie Anderson, Southwestern, etc. Those faculty senates are the ones advising the president of healthcare policies. Like how many minutes does each doctor or clinician get with the patient? That's how do you get the best patient care? It's your faculty senates that are making that happen across Texas. Half the outpatient healthcare, they're advising look, half of our outpatient healthcare, they're all gone. It's going to be all money making. They'll be for profit. So we're trying to get those reconstituted in time to be September 1st.
So how are we gonna organize year round? Like, and this legislative session during the interim and moving up to the next legislative session? Like, how do we keep our members mobilized when we continue to grow our chapters and build power on campuses? So when the legislature comes back around, we're prepared with on the ground power to come back with even more force than we did this year.
Right, so we keep doing our statewide, we have one on Monday, right? We have another legislative debrief. Faculty are now waking up to the reality that all this passed. And as of Sunday, we will know exactly what will become law. I think all the higher bills that passed will become law. I don't see anything stopping them. So I'm getting lots of phone calls suddenly from people that are waking up. Well, okay, what do we do? So that's what we organize. So organize to try to mitigate the harm in our different campuses. And we are reaching all the campuses. So we're just good. We got 1,500 members. We've got reach across the state, doubled since we chartered membership. So where we got a good reach, so we're working on that reach.
Nice. And California has actually seen a lot of legislative wins, so it's always good to kind of sandwich the lows with the highs. And I would really love to hear your legislative wins for worker rights in higher education, like you leverage state legislation for collective bargaining, adjunct equity, and overall working conditions. So can you elaborate how you built these campaigns and what the most effective methods were for mobilizing faculty?
Absolutely. Just on a personal privilege, just to thank the signers for their work. I think it's one of the most beautiful languages that legislative wins. So it's not just a single win. It is always build a movement and a building of previous wins and or losses. So we also take opportunities on losses. Sometimes, even though you have a Democratic legislature, they don't always pass things you like, and you have to try to beat those back. But there are some great wins, and we've taken those. First of all, we had to win them through mobilization of our members, but then applying it back to follow up. So one of the biggest wins we got was 3 years ago. Ever since COVID, I've lost track of time. You all have done the same thing. I think it's about 3 years ago. We got $200 million a year. It's not one time. It's not just put into a pot. It's annually funded to pay for part-time faculty healthcare for our community colleges in the state. Absolutely. And there are caveats to it. First of all, the school district has to provide it. So it's not a system. We don't have a statewide healthcare system that they can buy into. So it's all through negotiation. Get to negotiate, so we negotiated. But we put in there that the district can get fully refunded 100% of their portion. There are 4 parts to it, and it has to be negotiated. So we created an opportunity for our locals to organize. What we did, first of all, I envisioned that we were going to have this sacramental fight. And I had envisioned these rallies and actions at the Capitol. And in January, that the governor would put his proposal out, and then we'd say, okay, that didn't have it in there, we're going to go after it. And in January, he gave us the money. I'm like, holy shit, what am I supposed to do now? So I turned it around and said, okay, I'm going to bring every local that wants to get this in their contract. We're going to have a committee. You're all going to negotiate. You're all going to work and create the language that we want to share. And we're going to have this collaborative collective bargaining effort. And it was great because when there was a fight, some school districts got it. They have San Diego got it early. LA got it early. 2 of the largest school districts or community colleges in the state. And what some of the community colleges, the more conservative communities, if everybody did this, it's like $1 billion. It's not $200 million. So we're not going to do this. So when there was a fight at a board meeting or a collective bargaining, all the other meetings that was relatively close by came and supported them at their local rally. So even if that union didn't get it or did get it already, we created a network that they supported each other, like bargaining, and it became a statewide movement. And we're continuing to do that in the K-12 as well. But that was one of the major issues. We've taken that experience, and now what we're looking at is through legislation and collaborative collective bargaining is to have a one-tiered system in our community college. Blurring the lines between full-time and part-time, everybody has due process. Everybody has what people call tenure. Everybody has health care, regardless of whether you're full or part-time. It's not something we want to apply to all of our higher education system, but we don't control all of our higher education system. We don't have any of the CSU and the university UC system is so large. But it's something we're trying to do through our community college. Right now, the central piece of legislation is to be able to collectively bargain due process for part-time faculty. And that's in California. That also helps us build our organization to be able to collective bargain. I know you would have to twist that differently and just give that at the state level here, but that then allows us to organize members and see this is what it means to be part of the union and why we have to fight. It allows us to grow. It's collectively bargained in California. It allows us to grow and get members involved in this central fight.
Thank you. And I think something from both of y'all's answers is seeing that across the board, we're stronger together. You know, we get more work done when we unite and we're working with other unions or organizations. So coalition building has been an incredible tool for building power. Here in Texas, we partner with academic senates. Student groups, we have students engaged at Advancing Texas here, which they are awesome student group, other advocacy groups, and the list goes on. So this is a question for everyone. What does coalition building look like in Texas and California, and what lessons have we taken away from these partnerships?
So first, hats off to Amanda, because she's one of the founders of the Texas students for the they're really amazing in the session 2023, not only obviously going against Bill 17, which was going to pivot programs and practices, but they also were very instrumental in watering down, well, defeating the first version of the tenure bill and then getting a better version completely rewritten. And we also amended that one as well. So that's been helpful. And her two of her founders have gone off and gone into full-time organized advocacy. So they're also part of our coalition. So you start with one org and you get 3 more to go. So she's going to take the AFT. So we look for partners everywhere. So we have about 15, more than 15 partners right now that we work with in higher ed space. But I think what we need more is community groups, business groups. We have some, but we need more. I think that's a missing piece. We have lots of great civil rights groups who like and civil defense fund and so forth. Just want to expand on that. Because honestly, a bunch of professors going down to the session, going to the legislative session, not as compelling as the students going down and making the case for community groups, for business, civil rights. So we alone we get very far, quite honestly. But it's with all of you and all of our other works working together. Also, there are 1.4 million students in higher ed, there are 80,000 faculty. So the numbers are on the side of the students.
Yeah, I would add to that bargaining for the partners and taking this is not bargaining state, but when you collectively beg, is that what I'm told is what you do, you can bring in community interests into that demand in that conversation. And that's something that we've done in the state of California. And we've also in the community college arena brought back the March. So it happened on March 4th this year. I don't know how many of you participated on a nationwide action on March 4th, which kind of the beginning of all of these actions. But we were already planning ahead. And it was a march in Sacramento around students' rights, the funding for students, and how the actions of our community colleges affected the students also affected the faculty. So there was definitely a link between the workers and the students of our community college system. So that is now our president in LA College Faculty Guild is leading this. He's brought this to us, and he is the one that's helping to build that collaboration and an effort. Constant annual event. We'll have the third one next year, and we're working on that. So it is important. Now we're going back. We're fighting some bills. We're trying to go back to previous bills about limiting the number of times a student can try to take a class on community college. If they fail it twice, they're done. And we're saying, okay, just eliminate their dreams about moving forward. And they're saying, no, what we're trying to do is begin the cycle of the hamster wheel. I was like, okay, so how do they proceed if they can't take any more classes? So we're fighting against that, and it's with the students that we're sitting next to. This is really a student issue that we're fighting. So that's how we move forward. Those collective bargaining. And the last thing to say, never forget the usual suspects of your labor partners. That's so important. How can you link with them? Are they other representatives? Interest in building trades, Central Labor Council, Labor Fed, that is also.
So also building off of that last question, how do these partnerships, or how can we use what we learned towards building power on campus and building our chapters, especially with the passage of SB 37, which effectively strips faculty from having a voice on the institution level. But our union and AFT and AFT have always been kind of that space where faculty can amplify their voice. So it seems like an approach would be this like inside outside dual track organizing strategy where we're partnering with faculty senates, but also building power outside the system. And that's where our union is super important. So how can we approach organizing and leveraging what's happening now, leveraging existing structures to empower our union? And this is for everyone, but Dr. Evans,
Well, so one of the really horrible bills that passed last session was Senate Bill 17, also it's House Bill 17. And this forbids citizens of China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia from building a home. And this affects everybody. It affects our students, it affects the people who want to come and stay and immigrate. People already here in Texas. So it affects 200,000 people already here in Texas. So there's a whole group that we've been working with during the session, and I both. So that's how they've now invited us to go present to them. So that's what been a set of advocacy groups that we had only kind of formally been working with. Now they want to be more strategic about this.
I can't speak specifically to the bill, but what I would like to add is the reason I went to Poland was to talk about how this is an international issue. What we're facing here in the United States, like I was in Poland, we're from other countries that are facing the same issue, and how do we fight back against it? It is attacking people that were there: Turkey, Hungary, Germany, England, Ireland, in the United States, and they're all seeing that the attacks are around immigration, the attacks around LGBTQ plus issues, and it's really about isolating each of those countries so that we don't communicate. So these attacks about students, international students, we need to push back against that. This attack about academic freedom is very much the freezing of speech that they're seeing throughout the world in authoritarian regimes. In fact, in Turkey, the union leaders are claimed as terrorists so that they're even isolated. So one of the things I would talk about specifically about this is there are ways to work around it. There are ways to continue to have your free speech, academic freedom, which is what it is, and that's why we're out on the streets. That's a major piece of that. The lawsuits that we need to fight, that's a major piece of that. And then just to add what Randy said is we got to win next November, because that's the only way to stop this train is to stop bills being passed by this awful regime.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, thanks, Jeff. I think that was actually a really great way, last thing to leave us on as we wrap up this panel. But thank you to all of you for your continued advocacy for higher education and K through 12, because we're all connected. I mean, the attack is coming from pre-K to postdoc. I mean, we're all under attack, so it's really good to be here in community with both higher ed and K-12 members. So